And now we find ourselves at the final day of the first Ascension Rivals League here. The semifinals and finals start now. Welcome one, welcome all. I am Corrupted SR71. I'm joined here by Zeus. Excited for an incredible game. It starts here with Nekospresso versus F5.
I am absolutely pumped here. We have the last four teams competing today in the semi-finals and then the finals. We also have a couple more matches in between that with the losers relegation between Ernite and the Labyrinth, and then the open qualifier finals between Virus and FIU Panthers. It is surely going to be a stellar day for matches. Now, our first match here with F5 versus Nekospresso, we are starting on
Who will not?
Go on. We are starting. Oh, my co-caster has crashed, unfortunately. However, we are starting on Burn into Charlia, Intergalactic Empire of Wakanda. That is one of the more open maps in the game. We're potentially going to see some poke. And I believe when we saw F5, I think it was, playing on this map yesterday, they were using a lot of strange portal strategies to get to first point, then swapping to that Venom, and also getting to point and just attacking the enemy team from both sides. It was really fun to watch. We are then moving on to Clintar Symbiotic Surface. Again, these teams are choosing quite open and quite poke-based maps, which is really interesting to see, especially given how most teams will choose something like Hydra Charter's Base or Hell's Haven, where it's a lot of close encounters, a lot of verticality-based map design, so it benefits diving and fast brawl characters. We're then moving on to Spider Island on Tokyo 2099. One of the coolest maps in my opinion from a design perspective. It looks so fun and is so interesting and unique. So I'm genuinely really excited to see them play on that. Then we'll be on Hell's Haven and Hall of Dajalia. Both Wakanda maps being chosen interestingly there. And this is a first to three, meaning the teams will be playing a total of 5 matches or 5 games, and the first team to win 3 of those games will be moving on to the finals. And looking at their possible opponents, the other teams in these semi-finals are Quantum Esports versus Cafe Noir. I expect Quantum Esports is going to lose to Cafe Noir, although, as we've seen with this game, time and over, it's so volatile, it's so unpredictable. So it really is anyone's game here for the finals. And I mean, looking at the stats of these two teams so far for F5 and Nekospresso, F5 with a score of 4-1. That means they've won the vast majority of their matches so far. And F5, I'm trying to figure out where they have lost so far in this tournament.
I don't think I think they've lost once. I think that was the only place, but absolutely incredible stuff. I think I've got my Wi-Fi issues sorted now, so I can get back into the conversation a little bit. But it's going to be incredible to see these two teams up against one another again, F5 versus Nekospresso. I mean, yesterday looking at their matches, F5 had a hard time beating Hakiki Mori. A lot of close calls there in the best of 3 series in the quarterfinals. Meanwhile, Nekospresso sailed to victory against Empire. I said it yesterday. I'll probably say it again. It was just the crumbling of the Empire. It seemed like Nekospresso had an answer for every movement yesterday of Empire Gaming, and they're going to look to have every answer.
I mean, yeah, they truly ran that lobby. They were just having a blast, it felt like. I mean, they won both their matches. The second one was a lot closer than the first, I believe. And there goes my co-caster again. But yeah. And looking at, oh, you are back now. Looking at Nekospresso's side, they have gone 3-2 so far. They have lost 2 matches, which is one more than F5 have, and that potentially shows they have more weaknesses in their composition and game style. Although looking at this, Nekospresso seem to have their coaches in their team with them. Of course, F5 will be having them on Discord and able to talk with them via that. But it'll be interesting to see if those coaches can pick up on anything unique in-game by observing instead of just watching your player feed on Discord.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a really interesting point. We were able to actually talk. I cannot remember what team. I think it might have been. I think it was Cafe that we talked to their coach yesterday. That was a part of the game, and it's such an integral part of the team that it often gets overlooked, especially at this level of play. How integral just having an outside body to talk to you guys through issues, talk to you guys through the mental process of getting everything ready and just completing the match itself. It screams to how important it is. And, you know, I know F5's got a coach. I know Nekospresso has coaches as well. So for all of them to kind of operate together as a team, they're an integral part of it. And, you know, we're getting ready to go over to Bryn T'Challa now, our first map of this afternoon. And I'm excited. It's going to be a really exciting one. Two very different ban and save phases from these two teams. So I'm excited to see how they'll clash together. What are your thoughts on that, Zeus?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I am pumped, honestly. And looking at these team stats here, Will-O-Wisp has, as a support player, I believe, has 130 kills over 7 games, which is honestly incredible. And I believe yesterday we saw their opponents counter-banning or target banning that Will-O-Wisp specifically, just because of the amount of control they had over the lobby as Loki, and then they banned a different character, and they were still able to control the game so much, just because they're such a reliable support. I think it's really a testament to what can happen when you put someone who you would typically think should be a DPS because they've got really good aim or they're really good mechanically, and you put them on support where that skill expression can really shine through. And we are about to see the first picks and bans coming through here to open up our match.
Yeah, and this is going to be where things get truly exciting to see how the teams respond to one another. Obviously, they were able to watch each other's matches last night, and we see that Iron Fist being banned first. Wasn't a lot of Iron Fist bans. It was there. Now, this is the ban that we've seen most often, the Human Torch being banned almost immediately from F5. They're going to choose to save the Psylocke. Now, I remember back to F5's match last night. They got that Psylocke banned against them a lot. So to be able to protect it with their first ban is good. And another one that's gone back and forth, a commonly banned character trying to take away that 3 strategist comp would be that Loki. But now with him in play, it is one of, if not the strongest strategists in the game. And just like that, a Captain America ban, that is realistically a ban that we've seen consistently against F5. I believe that's against, I believe, Fleeb's ability there. So great stuff from both those teams to start off this ban and save phase.
Yeah, I mean, Captain America's a really interesting one because his damage isn't necessarily the best, but he's so mobile and so difficult to kill that if you see a target has used their survivability cooldowns or is half health, he can go over there so fast and just hunt you down. There is no getting away from a Captain America unless you have help from the rest of your team. Interesting ban on Adam Warlock there, clearly trying to stop that Soul Bond and a Mantis Star-Lord comp, which honestly fair, especially when you're protecting someone like Iron Man, who I believe we saw Volk playing yesterday, and
yes,
they were absolutely capable of running it down on Iron Man. They had such good ults with that pulse cannon. We're seeing Acrylic mirror with Iron Man, although oh, that's from Nekospresso. Never mind.
Yeah, it seems like Volk wasn't even going to touch Iron Man, and that's proven by the fact that they went ahead and they banned the Hulk there. It won't stop Acrylic from playing Iron Man, another flyer that I think has flown under the radar so far this season. He's still a fairly powerful character in this game. Obviously, when you compare him to some of the other flyers currently in the meta, looking at Storm, looking at Human Torch, he doesn't have as much to offer. But I think in situations like this, where you have a map where you could truly hide on this map and get those long distance shots kind of taken care of, that's where Acrylic is really going to soar on that Iron Man if he can make it work. and that's going to be an essential thing. But Volk finally being able to play that Psylocke, wasn't able to play it at all yesterday. We'll see how that flanking strategy goes off. Fleeb again going to be playing that Venom on a dive comp, so we'll see exactly what both these teams can do. And it looks like both teams using that Jeff tech to make their way forward as quickly as humanly possible. Game 1 of the semifinals underway.
Yeah, and I mean, really interesting choice from F5 here to run both Magneto and Psylocke, but not have an Emma Frost. It really is removing that team up, which I think is one of the better in the game. It provides so much value and gives a good Psylocke another escape tool, which is so commonly valuable. And we're going to see Volk up here on the low ground trying to fight off against Felicity, but gets comboed with that melee.
Yeah, and we're gonna see that trade-off on the back end as Fleeb taking down Aunt Nancy, and just like that, the entire situation flips on his head. Neko with an early pick on Volk as he tries to make things work in the backline. Point still contested as Fleeb now falls, as things continue with a little bit of back and forth here. Neko has a little bit more time before the rest of their team gets back, but they're on their way. Meanwhile, F5 getting trickled a little bit with that point still heavily contested, which is a great thing there. Acrylic, we talked about that choice to be on the Iron Man, and he's taking every opportunity to put himself behind a wall and give himself an early ult. He's at 95% as Volk, finally making the Psylocke useful and grabbing that first pick of many, I assume. Meanwhile, the rest of the team kind of forming up around Nekospresso, and it looks like to be a good start from both these teams.
I mean, honestly, incredible play there by Fleeb, but we're seeing that on a map with so much verticality where you'd expect someone like a Venom to do really well, Nekospresso playing high really restricts his options because it's such a low ceiling up there, and you have to work so much just to move up that you're wasting a lot of your kit. But we are going to see Kaiser popping that low heal into the Lunar Snow, Fate of Both Worlds, giving his team so much survivability here, forcing F5 to retreat and rescind the point, although they have got 30% now, which I bet they're not complaining about. Now oh, my caster's gone again, but Drillmaster looking to get some early damage on Timu's, clearly trying to contest high ground here, and they're probably going to be pushing through up to the high ground with Volk as well. Now, interesting to see what Acrylic's doing. Acrylic is retreating, trying to cover their flanks, especially as Kaiser is getting 1v2'd here. And these teams are both so split up. It's going to be really interesting to see how they can manage that, especially with healing over such a long distance behind so many walls. And it seems that the way they're handling it is just for both teams to play it really safe. Nekospresso having complete map control of the point here and its surrounding area. Honestly, brilliant Marvel Rivals gameplay from Nekospresso, just able to dominate the match so far. And Timu's fighting on this high ground here as F5 are pushing up through it, potentially looking to pop that meteor ramp as Emma Frost. And the pulse cannon goes out, manages to find 2 kills on Lunar Snow and Drillmaster. Then, not Tyrell and Timu's following up, killing the rest of the team as Volk tries to contest and claim point, but does not quite manage it. That is now 74% for Nekospresso. We are probably looking at one last fight here and push from F5, potentially even into a strange portal coming onto the objective. I am so excited to see what happens here from the rest of this fight. And Fleeb clearly trying to run along, trying to find a way to sneak onto the point to contest before it reaches that 99%, and I think he's going to be able to do it, but he gets killed early on. That meteor round from Profbin, able to not find any kills, although Volk will get a kill on Acrylic. Now Timu's with their own meteor round managing to kill Will-O-Wisp. That is going to remove that support for 5 Esports, and it is not looking good at this point, although the strength portal does come in clutch from F5 Esports Fleeb, but I don't think it's going to be quite enough as Acrylic is on point and managing to get 1 kill on the Hela, although they are going to fall subsequently, as now F5 have brought it back. I was so sure they had lost that there, but they managed to recover and managed to grasp that victory from the jaws of defeat. Now, I am truly excited to see if they can continue this lead so far and recover properly. And Corrupted is just back as Nekospresso have returned with their own strange portal coming up onto the point from the high ground. They know they've got that little bit of time to take this fight, unlike Nekospresso did, unlike F5 did just now when Nekospresso were at 99%, and F5B probably looking to use his strange ult sooner rather than later. It's just a matter of trying to get a lot of the opponents, but with Kaiser having used his immortality totem, we are going to see it, but it's perfectly countered by Aunt Nancy on Lunar Snow, popping that Fate of Both Worlds, giving their team almost invulnerability, but Felicity is going to manage to get that kill on Drillmaster, and now Nekospresso have that forward momentum. It looks like they are going to be able to cap, but Profin just hanging off by a slither of health, but does fall. Now it is going to be a retake, but not without F5 getting 45% first, and I don't think they can touch, not even Flea, but on Venom will be able to do so. That is the first round of the first game of these semi-finals, won for Nekospresso there, but it was closer than I bet they would have liked. F5 still have every chance to recover here, and so I am so interested to see how this turns out now. If there are any comp changes, I really think F5 need to start trying to use that Emma Frost instead of a Venom for Fleeb, purely because everyone knows how to play Emma Frost. She's not that difficult a character to play. I mean, there is definitely a skill ceiling to her, but when you've got that team-up ability with both the Psylocke and the Magneto, it's so useful for just piling on damage, giving that burst damage. Volk, we've already seen, is an incredible Emma Frost, and when they've used that, they've been able to so consistently get a kill on the backline and then rush the enemy front line, and it's honestly magical to see. Now, I'm really curious to see how these teams play this match out from here. We're seeing Acrylic taking the high ground early on, and Drillmaster is F5's answer to that, but he appears to be focusing on the Loki and the low ground instead. Interesting strategy, especially seen as Acrylic's been really good so far this tournament. But we are going to see the early popping of Fate of Both Worlds from Nekospresso here, managing to take the point, and Acrylic managing to get a kill on Volk there. This is not looking great for F5, as they're being forced to retreat and rescind so much space, and they're probably going to lose the fight still, as Felicity manages to grab Profit, does not quite get the kill on them, as Acrylic not quite managing to get the kill with that invincible pulse cannon. We are then going to see the response from Drillmaster with the Hella ult, and then from Not Hyrule as well, managing to get 2 kills with that ult, and that's a 3k for Drillmaster there. F5 retaking point there, but Nekospresso getting 35%, which seems like a lot, and it is a reasonable amount, but for one hold is not the best. That was never actually a one fight for either team. It was just extended and took quite a while because F5 had to wait for a couple of key players to respawn, including Volk there. And we're seeing Volk on the front line here and getting burnt down very quickly by Acrylic, not even with that Hulk team up. And honestly, it makes sense that you wouldn't go for that strategy on this map. With it being so open, Hulk really struggles. But we are going to see Aunt Nancy managing to get a kill on their opposing Lunar Snow Pinhead. This is now retaken by Nekospresso. They are at 40%, whilst F5 only hold the point at 30%. If Nekospresso manage to hold up until 100% here, they will win this game, and that gives them an advantage going forward into the rest of the matchup. But we are going to be seeing Fleeb pushing onto that front line, using their Venom ult, and Kaiser's going to manage to get a kill early on Pinhead. That's going to give Nekospresso just that bit more room to work with even though they have lost Acrylic, because it is now a 4v5. And I believe Corrupted is back.
I hope I am at this point. It seems like a fairly exciting match so far. I actually don't know what the score is because my entire Wi-Fi network decided to crash.
Yeah. F5 Esports is currently at 37%, and Nekospresso have won the first round at 90% currently. Fleeb is popping that Strange Portal in to try and take the point, and that Immortality Totem from Loki being popped so early on. Acrylic potentially looking for a maximum pulse here and manages to send it, but it gets deflected, I believe. Oh, and it gets pulled in by F5 Profbin with the Meteor M, managing to find 2 kills from that. This is probably going to be retaken by F5 here. They have that forward momentum, and they are going to exploit it as much as they possibly can, even with Aunt Nancy's ultimate on the objective. Now, we are seeing that Not Tyro is up, being pushed by Volk, and the response from Acrylic with that ultimate, or with that portal. Now a triple tank comp from Nekospresso. Felicity popping the Emma Frost ultimate, but is going to be banned by Magneto, and they are low health, only 300 now. They were starting that at 80, so they certainly managed to recover using that healing pack, and Felicity manages to get Magneto low, but not quite killing them, with Drillmaster and Fleeb managing to get 2 kills between them. That is going to give Nekospresso that little bit more space, that little bit more time to retreat, but F5 have capped the point here. But Nekospresso at 99%, that is going to be a scary prospect for F5 here, as Nekospresso have 1 or 2 more fights, although potentially not another Strange Portal for the rest of this game.
Yeah, it's gonna be really interesting to see how F5 chooses to defend this point for the rest of their match. Again, up towards 60% now, so it's a tough position for F5 to be in. And they already dropped 1 timeout, able to take out Drillmaster there. And just like that, F5 cannot afford any more losses, so they pop that Luna. Fleeb operates his Venom ultimate. Volk using his Psylocke ultimate. That's going to force out Kaiser to use his in response. So 3 ultimates used by F5. And already we see Volk fall next. F5 not able to do anything to Nekospresso. They still got 2 ults to use. Tyrrell's gonna use his. What can he do with it to get some huge damage in here? He's immediately hit out of it. Though, Acrylic able to use the opportunity, a trade between the 2 teams as Acrylic and Timeout use their ultimates to grab a few. And this point goes back to Nekospresso. Will we see an ult from Aunt Nancy here to try to secure a point? It's 99-99. Who can get back faster? It will be Nekospresso who will take game 1.
Yeah, I mean, Nekospresso doing really well there, honestly. Managing to capture that point. And that is the first game 1 of this set of 5. But it is still anyone's match, in my opinion. We see metas form between matches as they go on. And so, the first game is often the least important, oddly. But, I mean, I'm just going to look at the scoreboard here, try to figure out what the hell happened to F5 that game.
Yeah, and, I think it's a difficult thing to look at. They took a lot of great space, especially during map 1 there, and trying to take space away from Nekospresso during game 2 just didn't go their way. I think Neko timed their ults a little bit better. I think from what I saw, especially towards the end there, to time out a couple of ults in a good way just led to hand over fist kind of points for Nekospresso. That being said, F5, a great defensive stand, but especially on a map like Bryn T'Challa, it can be so difficult to find that sweet spot where you're still fighting for point, but not necessarily being on top of it. These points very open, very susceptible to that aerial attack. It seems like, for this map especially, it's a bowl. There's a bowl effect, and, whoever's trying to attack it, they've got the high ground. So trying to continue with that high ground is something that F5 kind of struggled with throughout that match. But an incredible game played, and it's going to be an excellent series if this is the caliber of play we see throughout.
Yeah, and I mean, Volk there, interestingly, struggling on Psylocke. We've seen Volk in the past being able to run the lobby with that character and just getting shut down, having 12 deaths total, which is quite a tall number for a team like this that is supposed to be so well coordinated and good. I really think they had a major flaw in their comp there with the Venom choice instead of an Emma Frost, especially because it would enable that team up, and Emma Frost is so versatile and so strong, as we saw from Nekospresso that game.
Yeah, and I think that comp itself, what Nekospresso built, you don't, like, we talked about this right before the game started, you don't see Iron Man at this level of play without Hulk also present. And the fact of the matter is that Acrylic went, okay, I'm going to use a hero that is never used in this kind of comp, and you're going to have to look at my team an entirely different way, especially running that Magneto Emma Frost in the front line. It gave him so much pressure I don't think Neko would have had with any other character other than Iron Man. I mean, we talk constantly about how this game is about where you're looking and, more importantly, when you're looking there. And every time I looked at Acrylic was just nowhere to be found near his team. He was always on such a weird off angle that if you even wanted to look at him, you're fully turning your attention away from the fight at hand. And that gave such a big advantage to Nekospresso. F5 trying to claim high ground as much as humanly possible, especially on map 2 there. But that ability to draw attention, it means for even a split second, if one of your strategists, one of your duelists look the wrong way, that's all the time that they need to set something up. As well as the fact that, you know, Iron Man recently with his balances, his ultimate charges rather quickly if you know how to utilize his primary fire. So it looked all good and buttoned up from Nekospresso. I thought it was a great plan from F5, just not executed the way they would have wanted.
No, not quite. And I mean, interestingly, and Acrylic, as you say, didn't have that Hulk team up. We've seen Acrylic with the Hulk team up, and oh boy, it is filthy. He's able to get things like 60% ult charge before a fight started, but you cannot run it, because if you do, you just on that map, at least on that previous map, you cannot run a Hulk because there's so much ground and distance you've got to cover where you cannot shoot the enemy team, and your only form of getting to them is jumping, and it just leaves you so susceptible to being damaged from range. But we are potentially going to see Nekospresso using the Hulk here now as they insta-ban Iron Fist. Completely understandable choice. Iron Fist is so strong right now.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, it's a good ban from Nekospresso. Now with F5, you've got yourselves a decision here, and they didn't make any decision like I was thinking of. I thought they were either going to go for a Human Torch ban or an Iron Man ban to take away at least one of those flyers. They go on a completely different plane of existence than me, and they go with the Loki ban, which I still really like. You take out the strongest strategist in the game currently, and then they go the save for Hela. And I like that decision, but it leaves, you know, it leaves the ability for members of the team like Acrylic, who we already know has great aim, Felicity as well, who has fantastic aim, to use these duelist characters. Now Nekospresso, they'll save and ban a Vanguard, the Groot pick. I absolutely love. I love watching Groot work. And then Captain America is the ban there, which I like as well.
And then we're going to see F5 banning the Johnny Storm here. Honestly, makes sense. We've seen how strong Johnny Storm is in the current meta, even into a Hela, who they have saved. But it will leave the question of, do Nekospresso choose to save Iron Man here, or risk it getting banned as well? We are going to see the save of Star-Lord from F5 here. A really interesting choice. I mean, that clearly shows their support roster is, yeah, and the ban on Adam Warlock. I was about to say their support roster was going to be Adam and Mantis, but you can no longer run that, potentially choosing the Star-Lord as bait to draw out that ban. However, we saw Nekospresso ban it last time, and for completely good reason. It is such a strong comp where you're able to just constantly get revives and have so much team survivability that you almost never stop touching as a group.
I mean, we saw a great example of this is last night. Calamity Nightfall falling to Quantum Esports, both times they used, or on map 1, they used Adam Warlock because it wasn't banned. And Calamity Nightfall won 2 crucial team fights, but they actually didn't. Because once that team fight was over, Adam just popped ult and it started all over again with Quantum having those ultimates. So we've seen how crucial it can be. Now, that battle in the sky will be a really important one if it's chosen, and it's not. Like you said, it was a bait pick out of F5. Remember that previously we only had 2 bans and 1 protect to work with. So having that extra protect and extra ban gives you something to play with and just strategize. And instead of saying, all right, we're just going to choose characters that we know that we're going to use, let's try to fake a comp out of this and still get what we want, because it forces things out. Now, we will see Hulk on both sides of the equation here, but we won't see Iron Man on either side. Volk deciding to stay on the Psylocke. He knows that it's worked for him before. He's just waiting for it to warm up, and we'll see it on the defensive end. Meanwhile, Nekospresso will run with it as Timeout runs that Hulk, and we know how well he can do on that. So we'll see what he can do.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Nekospresso coming out of the spawn here with Acrylic going up top, trying to find some early damage. And I'm really interested to see how Drillmaster uses the Gamma Squid, because it's so good at dealing with flyers. It has a really, it's really good at sticking up high on a wall and then able to deal so much damage towards them. But Acrylic instantly killing it. That is going to leave Drillmaster largely weaker than they typically would be, because Nemo's not a brilliant character without that team-up ability, although it is instantly going to be placed back out now. And
yeah,
Nekospresso clearly on it, able to destroy it as soon as it appears and emerges. Timu's up in the front, trying to contest, trying to pin that backline down off the objective.
Yeah, we see both of those DPSs that we've been talking about for the first game fall almost immediately. Volk and Acrylic have both fallen at least once already in this matchup, and it's due in large part as Acrylic dies again to that Hulk ability to grab out of the sky. It's a lot of stun abilities on either side of the field that are trying to be utilized here and utilized correctly. Neko originally up in the fight, but now at a little bit of a stalemate as a minute and a half has already passed by. Drillmaster has his ult, and Nancy and Kaiser have theirs. We're still waiting on quite a few. Acrylic yet to charge, which is an absolutely insane stat. They've been able to keep him mostly locked down.
And we are going to see
teams going
so
at it.
many ults popped here. The Salacle not managing to find any value. And then the invisible boundary mirror ultimates. Potentially Acrylic looking to get a kill here with the Iron Man ult. Although an incredible Groot ult manages to get a 4K from that for Nekospresso, as they are going to cap this point, hopefully.
Yeah, they gotta take down that Hulk, but it is the last piece of the puzzle. They solve it. They'll get that last third of point, mainly because they've staggered all of F5 here. An extra minute and a half will now be presented to them. 4 minutes and 10 seconds to push forward to that second checkpoint. And what I loved there is Acrylic obviously trying to go for his ult. Very, very in their face that he had 91% when this fight originally started. But that ability to see that, oh, Felicity's got a fantastic ult. This really sets me up well, but we don't need it because the rest of my team is around and we don't need necessarily to use this ult in our direction. You know, to be able to save it for the next team fight, especially the way that we've seen Acrylic use his ult so far, it's a truly special thing. And we'll see him immediately in on the back line. Terrell using his ult. And again, Acrylic doesn't have to use his ult here to win the fight. Same thing with Timeout, as they'll go through and pretty much systematically take out the entirety of this team. Fleeb getting at least 1 pick there on Kaiser, but it won't mean much in the grand scheme of things, especially on one of the faster characters in this game of Rocket Raccoon.
Yeah, and I mean, Acrylic holding his ultimate for that entire fight there. Nekospresso clearly trying to gain some semblance of an ult advantage, which I do believe they have. They are closer to that Groot ult and the Rocket ult than any of F5 Esports' roster, aside from Profbin and Drillmaster, who already have it. But Acrylic, seeing that their opponents are in this very enclosed space, trying to get as much damage as they can with that Gamma Charge ability, and probably looking for an invisible pulse cannon kill here. But Emma Frost Profbin trying to find value on the enemy team, and it gets blocked by Drillmaster with the Namor bubble.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot of great back and forth here, but F5 playing that one beautifully, able to grab a couple of kills here. Fleeb, Drillmaster able to grab a few. Acrylic able to take out Drillmaster, but he used his ult in the process. They're a great example of ways to, you know, kind of bait and switch ultimates here. That Acrylic, now at 43%, still has to build up his ultimate, and all that space that Neko had, they wanted to take that high ground away from F5, but F5 kind of saw that coming. They move up to the high ground as well, kind of fighting on even terms here, and it allows both teams to kind of make this back and forth. Fleeb chasing after Acrylic, forced to pop his ultimate here, and it's one of two available to F5. No ultimates available, only 85% for Acrylic as he looks to charge his quickly. Meanwhile, F5, we got Pinhead on that backline, holding it down with Rocket Raccoon. An absolutely incredible job done by him as Volk, airborne now, not able to grab anything, but Tiro will at 2K as Pinhead able to take out Aunt Nancy. So trades on both sides of the field with 1 minute and 15 seconds on the clock. These teams continue their back and forth. Acrylic able to grab one, grab two. That will open things up for Nekospresso to try to claim victory and grab that second point. Just like that, the odds shifting again as Acrylic falls. Tiro able to take out Pinhead.
Yeah,
both teams look for anything.
We're seeing Felicity here really going for the flank on Magneto. He went for it twice in that one fight, I believe. The first time he got countered by that Emma Frost from Profbin. However, the second time it worked. He managed to get that kill and just go behind Profbin and just pin her against his own team. We are going to see the strange portal here from F5 Esports Volk, and they're going to try to contest this point as best they can, especially with that Emerald and the invisible boundary being popped from F5 Esports.
Wow.
Will Nekospresso respond with their own ult? I'm specifically looking at the Timus with the Hulk smash, juggling the enemy supports, trying to find a kill on them, doesn't quite manage to, but is going to take them out of the fight for the most part, leaving the backline vulnerable as Volk also contests Aunt Nancy and Kaiser Gaming. And Acrylic...
Yeah, and both teams kind of going back and forth. 2.7 meters was where it's at now at 3.7 as Drillmaster takes out timeout. And again, another blocked ultimate from Acrylic here. Overtime needs to get something done. Felicity able to use the Magneto to the advantage. And it's a great position to be in if you're F5, as they just are able to stop them at that first point. I didn't think Nekospresso was going to be stopped at that position, but that Strange Portal coming in rather clutch in the last 30 seconds, creating a much longer team fight there, much longer than what Neko could handle, especially in the ult economy fight where neither team really had an advantage. They all were kind of sitting around that 50-60% range with like 1 or 2 ultimates per side available. And really, it gave every advantage to F5 to kind of split this team up by splitting them down the middle with that Strange Portal like they did, and kind of systematically going one at a time, staggering the team, and allowing overtime to be in their hands and on F5's terms, despite the fact that it really shouldn't have been at the start of that fight. They did a great job to control it and try to bring a game into their own hands.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. Brilliant play there from F5 Esports, able to hold at the second point, and we rarely see a hold at all on this map unless it's at the very last point, and usually it's quite far along. We are going to see neither team going for the Hulk team up now on that DPS, with Volk switching from Namor to Star-Lord, probably a far better choice for attack, and there was a reason they saved him. I expect Volk is going to be able to do work here, with Drillmaster interestingly going on to the Black Widow, potentially just to open up this match and then swap back, but it will all be confirmed with time as Fleet pushes up quite far into that side angle. And I mean, F5 probably going to try his take height here, but instead choosing to fight on the low ground where those penny mines are. honestly an interesting choice from them. I don't think it is going to advantage them in the slightest. Although they are all taking that side room now, they're pushing through in that small area. Acrylic might struggle to be able to get some damage off there without having to go really far down, and a lot further down than you would want to an Iron Man.
And that's part of the plan here, but Acrylic up at 84% right now, one of the fastest charges ultimates, like we said before. And despite the fact that they were in that back room, Acrylic able to utilize it, and he's got his ult available, the only one available in the lobby, and we all know that he knows it. So he's going to try to bring himself into a position here. He'll go for it, he'll be able to grab one, but a lot of great... He'll fall in the process, he'll be brought back up by Kaiser, but it's an excellent move from him because it takes all of F5's momentum and pushes it just that far back. At 2 minutes and 45 seconds on the clock, just a minute and 15 seconds have come and gone. But just like that, already towards 30% now. A lot of backline damage and a backline kill as well as Pinhead, the next one to fall. Drillmaster close, Felicity able to cap off that kill as Tyrell able to take out Volk. And a very interesting strategy call is Drillmaster now is on Psylocke, Volk on the Star-Lord, so it might be an area where Drillmaster might not be as comfortable on Psylocke, but Volk is that much more confident on the Star-Lord that it will make up for Drillmaster, take some attention away from him. But they've got Will-O-Wisp and Drillmaster's ultimate available as Professor Binns as well becomes available to him. Now the counter that they've got Kaiser and they've got timeout, but it's not the best counter to those three ultimates. So we'll see what either team could do here to kind of maximize performance, because at 1 minute and 48 seconds, F5 still not even a third of the way through point. But they'll start things off by trying to take out Acrylic. With all 6 ultimates available, they can do that.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. This is going to be a high ult fight as we are coming in here with the spider mode from Penny Parker on as Timu's, and Felicity trying to find a kill onto Drillmaster here, does not quite manage to get it, but is going to push back F5 Esports so much as we are now looking at them only having 1 minute and 15 seconds on this first point here. Will Nekospresso be able to hold at the first point? If they do, I will be so impressed, and it will mean that they win the second game of this match.
You know, I think that's the ever important thing here. Both teams with 4 ultimates, but again, you know, it's really how you use them here. Especially, you see both those Magneto ults. Those are reactionary ultimates. Yes. Same goes for, you know, Volk as well. So we'll see what either team can do here to gain an advantage. And here we go. Both duelist ultimates come out from F5. We see Felicity and Kaiser both use their ultimates in response. And Acrylic the only one to fall. But again, Revive is set up for him. So he'll bring himself back into this. Yeah, Tyrell able to use his ult to grab some advantages here as the teams continue with their back and forth. 23 seconds now on the clock though, as just like that, F5 brought back just a little bit, and Maximum Pulse not able to do much.
Yeah, and I mean, we're seeing Nekospresso here almost able to hold this fight, and we're going to see Felicity forced to go Doctor Strange to try and touch, but they've already done it. They've already capped, and the responding portal from Volk here, going to try and touch, and they're able to touch, but how long can they do it for is really the question, especially as Pinhead and Volk have both fallen early on in this fight. It is going to leave Nekospresso at a massive advantage, and they have won the second game of this matchup. It is a first to 3, and so Nekospresso clearly quite confident to be in the running for the finals here. But
yeah, and I think the important part. Yeah, and I think the really important part here is we kind of look for the stat lines. Is Acrylic again MVP on that Iron Man, showing how dangerous he can be. 28-8-0 for him. Now, as soon as these stat lines pull up for me, I will mention, you know, F5 was only held to 12 kills the entire game. And I think it really speaks to what they've been able to do. You know, 3 members of their team, Drillmaster, Professor Bin, and Volk, all at 10. Philippe with 12. They capped Will-O-Wisp at 5 kills, 5 deaths, only 12 assists. Pinhead having more at 14 assists. But still, I think it really speaks more to F5 than it does to Nekospresso. that with those limited numbers of kills, they were still able to make a huge impact. Remember, they stalled them out at that second checkpoint. So they did that while killing them a limited number of times. Now we look at the other side of the bracket and it's all good stuff. It's numbers that we would expect to see out of Nekospresso.
Acrylic, interestingly, dying the most with 8 deaths, but they're still the MVP. They've still got those 28 kills and 17 final hits. And I really think that that F5 are being forced to play to specifically counter Acrylic, but in doing so, they are leaving the rest of the team open to whatever game their opponents want to run there. And I mean, it really showed. None of Nekospresso's team had more than 4 ults aside from Acrylic. Acrylic clearly taking most of F5's attention there just to deal with him. And you cannot win if you're having to focus so much on just one player.
Yeah, I mean, Acrylic has looked really good in the ult economy game as well. He's run circles not only around F5, but around the entire lobby. It feels like deja vu because I said it yesterday about, I believe it was Acrylic as well, because he was Jurassic yesterday, I believe. So that ability to just move things around beautifully and to really make every shot count is a really important thing, but it just allows the rest of his team to operate however they want. And it really means that in trying to move away from Acrylic, you move into other members of the team. You know, specifically the one that comes to mind is Felicity, who when Acrylic wasn't getting kills, Felicity was getting kills. And just that back and forth of being able to trade one off and one off to make sure that even the escaping members of F5 will still go down. It's an incredible thing for a team like Nekospresso to do. That was not an easy hold for them on this map, but they made it look easy because they played their strategy well. I don't have to hear their comms to know that the conversations between them were short, sweet, exactly what needed to be said, because every member was moving so fluidly around the point, knowing where they needed to be and when, and the team's kind of calling that out for each other and not being nervous when 1 or 2 members of your team go down, have to make their way back from spawn. I think it's a great quality for Nekospresso to bring to the semifinals match, and it shows with a 2-0 start against F5. Now we know F5. We know that they know how to dig their heels in, so they've got to do it now. Their backs are up against the wall. They want that spot in the finals. They had a tough match yesterday against Hakiki Mori, and it's an even tougher one now against Neko. So I'm wondering what they could do differently here to kind of get a foot up.
Yeah, and I mean, we're coming now onto Tokyo 2099 Spider Island, which is quite similar to the first match, which was Burning T'Challa on Domination. And I think the reason it's so similar is because, yes, it's open, and Clintar is also quite an open map, but there's a lot more of an emphasis on verticality, and it's going to be interesting to see how they are able to play around that, because F5, it was close that first game, especially on that second point, and they're potentially going to start bringing this back now. They've figured out how they need to ban Nekospresso here, hopefully, but I think with Acrylic doing so well, and this next map being really good for flying characters, who Acrylic does main, it's going to put F5 at a risky spot, in my opinion. And we are just waiting on a member of Nekospresso to restart their PC and join back in. And Timus is back in now. We should be starting this next game shortly.
Yeah, and it's going to be really interesting. Again, a lot of that verticality, it plays into Nekospresso's hands a little bit as we see Acrylic join back in. And I think it's incredible stuff from all of these teammates. A big shout out to Kaiser, who's played Rocket Raccoon in the last map, and just that ability to keep your team up. It seems easy sometimes, especially on the Rocket Raccoon, but when you get to this level, it's so difficult to put yourself in a position where you're consistently doing the healing that needs to be done to an incredibly mobile team like Nekospresso. So he's been great at that. The rest of the team has been great to form around them. And I think both teams have got a good shot at this map. I think it's going to be a real toss-up. So I'm excited to see everything that comes in here. Everyone back in the lobby now, as we should get this game underway. Shin Shibuya, one of my favorite maps just because it offers a lot and it gives a lot of great room for these teams to kind of flex their muscles, show off a couple of different comps here, but great stuff. So we're heading not to, we're heading to Spire Islands.
Spire Islands, yeah.
Yes, I apologize for getting the map wrong.
I mean, that choice to go Rocket Raccoon was really interesting there, in my opinion, because on defense, especially on that first point, it is the type of thing where you can hold for so long on defense, but as soon as there's a crack in your composition, in the way you are playing, it is so easy to be exploited and just gash at the enemy team. However, that rocket revive beacon, BRB, so strong that just as soon as you kill Acrylic, your win condition, if you are F5 in this matchup, you lose it instantly because he's back there. He's back to pester and annoy you and stop you from going out of position even at all, because he knows how to punish you perfectly in that situation.
Yeah, and it truly shows the survivability that Acrylic has, because he died 3 times in that defensive stand, and every time there was a respawn beacon waiting, which means that he had to wait 45-50 seconds and survive that long before the next respawn beacon could be placed. So that ability is really nice, and now we get to that ever-present moment of the ban and pick phase, and we've seen fairly similar stuff here, as just to be expected, we see immediately off the board the Iron Fist, and I assume on the other side of the field we'll probably end up seeing that Johnny Storm as well, if not the Loki again.
I'm really curious to see if the Loki ban makes complete sense from F5 Esports there. I'm curious to see if Nekospresso choose to save Johnny Storm or choose to save a tank, which they have done in the past. I think the Johnny Storm will be very interesting to see if they do decide to save them, and it is all a matter of time. They choose to save Groot. I think that makes perfect sense, especially with how creative we've seen Nekospresso able to use Groot walls here so far this matchup and this tournament as a whole.
Yeah, it's a lot of great bans and picks so far. It's the same exact stuff as we saw on Clintar. So again, that Groot and Captain America ban and that Hela save, which we didn't see Hela played, and there it is. The exact ban I thought was gonna happen. Iron Man finally banned, but that opened things up for Neko to be able to play the Human Torch. So realistically, you feel like you plugged a hole, but does this mean another bigger one just opens right up?
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see if Nekospresso do decide to save, and they entirely do. And we saw yesterday when Nekospresso were banned on the front of Iron Man, they then saved Human Torch, and it just worked far better. You're damned if you ban Iron Man, and you're damned if you ban Human Torch. And if you ban both, you are giving the other team so much control over the rest of their composition and the meta. And we are going to see the Adam and Hulk bans there to finish that off. Interesting to ban Hulk. He is good on this map, although I don't see the value once you've banned someone like Iron Man. Even though Namor has that team up, it's nowhere near as good, and we're almost certainly going to see a mirror matchup of Johnny Storm here. However, we might not. It all depends on what Drillmaster decides to do, and it appears that F5 Esports are running a triple tank comp here. I'm curious to see how that works out.
Yeah, and I actually really like that decision from F5 to be able to run a triple Vanguard comp. It gives a lot of survivability to the rest of your team, and when you're going up against Acrylic on what is now the Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, as opposed to the Iron Man, you need all the survivability that you can get in the front line and the back line. This requires your team to play really close together, which might play into Acrylic's hands, but it also might not, depending on F5 decides to play this. Now, I love that they're going triple shield. So it's Magneto, it's Emma Frost, and it's Stephen Strange. Now we'll see on Nekospresso's side, Magneto and Groot. So it's an exciting Vanguard duel in the front line, but again, it all comes down to what Acrylic can do. Now on the attacking end, it plays a little bit better for F5 defensively than it will for Neko, but Neko still looking for their first kills.
Yeah, and I mean, absolutely. Nekospresso here trying to push and create space, whilst F5 with that triple tank comp and an invisible one, basically having quadruple shield. It's really frustrating for someone like a Johnny Storm to try and hit with those projectiles consistently and reliably. But they are going to put so much pressure on that backline. It's splitting the front and the backline so much. Look at the distance between the two, especially whilst using those wolves from Felicity, although Felicity does fall, and so does Emma Frost. Will-O-Wisp already popping invisible boundary. I mean, getting it that quick is impressive by itself. And
yeah, and I think it's really exciting. You talked about that a little bit, like the splitting of these teams. Aunt Nancy able to take out Drill Master, and that really allows the Nekospresso team to kind of open things up a little bit. Acrylic keeps that backline occupied, not necessarily looking for kills, but he doesn't need it. Now, Tyrell has his ultimate available, and this is the team up I've been waiting to see, because there's so much to do here with the Fire Tornado, and it's going to be activated here as we'll just see Tyrell use his Tornado, and there it goes. There's the Fire Tornado, an incredibly fun ultimate to use here, but it won't go either of their ways. Kaiser trying to use his ultimate as well, who keep his team alive. Timeout grabs the first pick on Volk. Professor Bin taking up by timeout as well.
Yeah, and I mean, we really saw Kaiser using their ult perfectly there, managing to get that kill on Drill Master at the end as Nekospresso clean up the rest of their opponents. But using that ult in combination with the Groot ult, and it's not necessarily as intuitive as you'd expect, but it really does work well with the damage boost on those trapped players, allowing you to damage through supporters, which F5 I don't think even had active. But Felicity trying to wall off F5 here doesn't quite manage to, as Profin pops the
again, splitting of the teams here as Acrylic gets a pick on Drill Master, keeping some of that team at bay with the help of Felicity, who's not using the walls to kind of cordon people off, but to section off entire chunks of the map, keeping those two strategists out of the way as the rest of the team moves through. Now, Acrylic and Tyrell will both fall, but the rest of Nekospresso standing strong as Felicity grabs a pick on Volk. That Invisible Woman ultimate working well to try to keep Nekospresso off of point, but 0.17 meters away. This touch is not going to come fast enough. Timeout takes out Pinhead as Acrylic back in the fight. He'll use Supernova, tries to get some verticality, and he will be able to get it. But will he be able to grab any kills? Yes, he will. Acrylic with a 2K. Tyrell using that Fire Tornado in order to grab another one. 3 minutes and 11 seconds on the clock. It's going to be really important for Neko to utilize that time wisely to give them as much time as humanly possible on the third point if and when they make it.
And I mean, F5 did manage to, Nekospresso did manage to get that, but F5 put up a strong fight, holding for quite a while and forcing a lot of ults from Nekospresso there. But we've seen how fast someone like Acrylic can get it back. So I'm excited to see if this fight he uses his ult again or not.
Yeah.
And we're going to see Noctyrol having gone back to the Hela now instead of the Storm for that team up ult, seeing that it didn't find much value in the end actually, because yes, it damages through support ults, but when you're against opponents who are so well coordinated and so reliable, it does not do much. However, we do now see the Strange Portal and Drillmaster managing to get an early kill on Acrylic.
Yeah, and it's a great kill. It's a great kill to use there. As Aunt Nancy falls as well, Nekospresso will kind of take away this fight, but timeout, and T-Rail gonna bring themselves back into it with a couple of kills of their own. But again, that back and forth continues as we see Acrylic make his way back into the fight, but Felicity will fall to Philippe. So again, these pendulums swinging either direction. As with the minute 43 on the clock, we see Neko try to take control of that cart yet again. Not able to at this moment, but Nekospresso putting everything at it. Acrylic now at 76% of his ultimate as he tries to charge it quickly here.
Oh, no.
Talked about that before. And Nancy using that push ability to get Professor Bin off the map. Incredible stuff out of that strategist player to bring things back into Neko's hands, taking away a huge amount of attack power from F5, who I don't know if we've touched on this yet, have moved away from the triple Vanguard comp. Drillmaster back onto Psylocke again. So got that ultimate available. Acrylic got his ultimate available, and I timed it. It was a minute and a half for Acrylic to get his ultimate all the way back. Tyrell and Acrylic and Kaiser all use their ultimates at the same time, giving themselves some extra room, less than a meter away. Eye of Agamotto taken out by Tyrell. Incredible stuff to shut down Fleeb.
And Nekospresso almost able to cap here, but not quite. This is just going to be a hold from F5 Esports, but I believe there is... Wait, did they cap? I think they did. No, they haven't quite.
No, they haven't. It's less than a meter.
Distance away from capping, though. And
yeah,
F5 Esports managing to hold with 15 seconds on the clock. It is going to force a strange portal from Nekospresso, especially Timu's here, and that might not even come in time, but it certainly it certainly is about to. But the knock off the map, managing to get Timu's and Felicity, that is both tanks on Nekospresso's end. That is going to force that Nancy to use the invisible boundary so early on in this fight, but managing to get a kill on Pinhead, and Drillmaster popping the...
Yeah, Drillmaster will pretty much shut down Nekospresso. They're trying to make their way back. Will-O-Wisp with an excellent pull off the map of two members of Neko makes this, try to swing this map back for F5. Now, we've seen a great attack or a great defense from F5 twice, but again, where they struggled was the attacking end. We knew that they were going to do well on defense, so now it's time. This is truly the last stand for F5. They need to start putting things together here on the attacking end of things if they want to continue in this tournament and make their way to the finals. Realistically, it comes down to this. A strong hold from Nekospresso like we saw last map means the end of F5, and Nekospresso's day is extended to the finals at 10 p.m.
Yeah, and I mean, F5 Will-O-Wisp there. Honestly, that was a great boop, but I don't even think they expected them to be at the edge of the map there. I think they were just expecting them to be in the portal, and booping them away buys your team a little bit more time. So, honestly, I think Nekospresso kind of shot themselves in the foot there without realizing it, because who thinks about that potential team up? Although at the start we are going to see Volk here on Black Widow with that sniper, able to get a one-shot because they have a Mantis on their team and that damage boost. Hopefully that can get them a couple picks, because we've seen when you can kind of lock teams here in at the very start of the first point.
Now there's a more surprising thing here for me. It's a triple Vanguard comp out of Nekospresso. Acrylic on the Emma Frost in this comp, so keeping himself grounded as Tyrell up top, or Tyrell using the Storm yet again. So again, a strong front line for Neko on the defensive end. What can they do to prevent what happened last time where Neko was able to break through fairly easily against F5? How can they flip this on their head and make things count? Again, Fleeb on the Venom. We know how well this has worked for him in the past. He's going to look to continue to make it work. But not a strong start out of F5. That first fight not really going their way. Kaiser immediately will use his ultimate. Timeout and Acrylic will both utilize it as they hold to spawn doors. Professor Bin, and it's about 10 seconds off the clock now as these two move back and forth, and it's only one ultimate used there. That's going to be Kaiser's. Absolutely excellent use of it.
Yeah, and I mean, interestingly, we've seen Nekospresso, F5 Esports, Volk try that strategy twice of going the Black Widow at the start of this map specifically, but it's not worked either time. And this time, I really think the real reason it did not work is because Nekospresso had that triple tank comp and were able to just block off so many angles, especially with Felicity's group walls. And now, F5 are being held at spawn. Nekospresso really just showing off and flexing their muscles here, using ultimate in a situation where they never hold for that long.
And I think the important part of that fight, as the things get kind of flipped. I think Nekospresso pushed a little bit too far forward there. They're starting to feel the effects of it as all 6 of them fall, but with almost 2 minutes taken off the part, or off the point there, it takes 1.5 minutes to fully move this cart forward to point. So that means there's a 30-second buffer window that Nekospresso can work with here, and they're choosing to take a much earlier fight as Felicity moves from Groot onto Stephen Strange. And I think that fight went on for a while because Tyrell able to bring himself back. Now Kaiser and Acrylic will use their ults, and it's a 4K. So the early fight moving into their hands, and again, that 1.5 minutes of time that is necessary for things to be here. With the team so split like F5, they're going to look to stagger the rest of their team here. But now we've got that 1:30 minute mark. They need to start pushing this forward if they want to avoid any kind of overtime. And Nekospresso preventing that. Again, this strong start that we see out of them has truly been incredible. They've dug their heels so far into the ground that it's so hard for F5 to pry it out. And just when they think that they did, Nekospresso pulls something out that allows them to continue to keep the ball rolling, or in this case, prevent it from rolling.
Yeah, and I mean, we're seeing Fleeve there going into that backline, trying to be as disruptive as possible, but Acrylic still managing to get that kill onto Drillmaster. This is really 50-50, this fight so far, but I think Nekospresso just holding the advantage here as they haven't had a death yet, and the use of that stun being responded with Invisible Boundary, managing to just stay in the fight that little bit longer. But this long fight is really advantageous towards Nekospresso, who are on defense, because the clock's at 30%. It takes a minute to get to the end of this point. They will be fighting in a slither of overtime, even if they manage to get there, and they all fall.
Yeah, and as of current, there's 20 seconds on the clock. There's one team fight left. Like, one actual team fight left. And now we see comfort characters being taken out. Volk now on Wolverine at 52% of the way to his ultimate with 10 seconds left on the clock. And this is full advantage, Neko. I mean, like you said, there's a minute to push this card forward, a minute of overtime as it gets started here, and they can't leave the point. And that really limits a few members of the team.
Yeah.
Both teams will activate everything they've got here, and Acrylic takes out 2, and that opens up the floodgates for Nekospresso, as that's all 6 members of the team down. Overtime. Nobody else is going to be able to get a touch here, and that's going to send Nekospresso to the finals. What a performance from this Nekospresso team.
What a brilliant team there. Honestly, going into this, I thought this match might be a lot closer than it ended up being, but we might have found a team here who are able to hold a candle to Cafe Noir, and we might be seeing one of the most interesting or the best matchups in this game, as the next match is between Quantum Esports and Cafe Noir. We will be starting on Domination Burn into T'Challa, but I believe we are going to have a player interview with Cafe Noir just before we go to that. And I mean, looking at the stats here, Drillmaster managing to do quite well, given that he was on a losing team.
Yeah, and I think it really speaks to both these teams playing so competitively together. Drillmaster 25-8-0, like you just kind of said. The rest of the team held above 10. Now, when you see a dominant performance like we saw, on the last map from Nekospresso, on this map from Nekospresso as well, you tend to see multiple members of the team not being able to get above 2 or get above 5 kills. But in this case, F5 gave it everything that they had in this last game, and to be able to say, they didn't hold a single member of our team to below 10 kills. I think it's something to be proud of, especially you see Kaiser with only 8 kills. Now he's on the Rocket Raccoon, so obviously you're not going to see as many kills from him, but it's an absolutely excellent stat line out of Neko, who just shut down this F5 esports team and saying, okay, we won't be as strong on the offensive end. We'll just put all of our chips in on the defensive one, especially to give Acrylic 3 MVPs on Iron Man, and then moving over to Vanguard like it's nothing from Duelist, like it's nothing, and getting MVP again on that Emma Frost. So it's absolutely excellent stuff from this team. We're going to look to get that interview underway fairly shortly. We're going to go to a quick break. When we get back, meeting with a member of the first team to make it to finals, Nekospresso.
See you there. And here we are joined by two members of the first team into the finals, from Nekospresso. We are joined by Nick and Felicity. How are you two feeling about that performance?
I am personally smiling ear to ear right now.
Yeah, same. The performance from the team is phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, nothing short of amazing. So we'll start off with map one, a close game between the two of you guys, between F5 and Nekospresso. What do you think gave you guys the edge in that first game to kind of, take it away from them? I know it was like 99-99 on map two. Unfortunately, I timed out in map one because of an internet issue that I'm dealing with. But talk me through a little bit of your strategies on that first map and what led you in this hard-fought game to get victory game one.
So,
Yeah, so-
oh, go
Go
ahead.
for
No, you go. You got this.
So from like the player perspective, I noticed that their weakest points were like when they would go for the dive on Venom. We could just focus at their Psylocke because she would be directly right behind with no support, and we were able to like kind of make their dive a little bit more useless with Iron Man Beam if we just brawled that out. We ended up doing that a lot and being able to walk after because it would either net like all their CDs or net us a pick.
I mean, yeah,
It's
we've seen earlier in this tournament that teams have struggled against F5 Psylocke, but you've clearly found the counter there. How do you guys approach picks and bans there? Do you do research into your opposing team, or do you just play the comp you want to?
Yeah, so I was doing research all morning with Felicity and one of the other coaches, and we noticed the pattern in the way they play. They always first ban Loki and always second ban Groot, and sometimes even first ban Groot, which led us to believe, one, they struggle against the Loki and they don't have a Loki player, and two, we noticed from their play patterns their tanks tend to be extremely aggressive, which would lead me to believe that Groot can catch them out pretty easily with walls. So we played for exactly that. We wanted Iron Man or Torch, and we knew they didn't want Groot or Loki, so the goal was, okay, they're going to ban Loki first, let's protect Groot. Then they're going to ban Groot first, let's protect Loki. And they can't ban both Torch and Iron Man and both Groot and Loki. So either way, they're either going to have to let us get both Loki and Groot and ban both Iron Man and Torch, or let us get one of the picks they hate and let us get one of the flyers. So they ended up playing into what we wanted them to in the picks and bans instead of them banning stuff for their comp. So that was our strategy going in with picks and bans. That's how we kind of strategized and planned for, and I think it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, it worked out excellently. Now, getting into maps 2 and maps 3, the offensive side, not the strongest. Obviously, you guys held to that, almost touching second point both times is tantalizingly close. What do you guys do in order to maximize the defensive end? We saw two very different strategies to defend on Clintar as opposed to Tokyo 2099. So, what led to saying, all right, we're going to go double Vanguard, 2-2-2 comp on Clintar, but a triple Vanguard on Tokyo 2099.
Do you want to take this one, Felicity?
The coach got it.
Okay. Yeah, so triple tank, we can only run it on specific game modes, actually. So you can't run it on Clintar. It just doesn't work the way it's supposed to. I don't want to get too much into our strategy before finals. But essentially, yeah, triple tank can only be run on certain game modes and specific maps, or else it actually doesn't function. So we have specific maps we like to run it on. After that, we play standard 2-2-2. We're really lucky. Team House is a phenomenal tank, extremely versatile. As you can see, he plays the hull, plays the mag, and in specific maps, you can even pull out the penny, which is really fun and kind of throws teams a little bit off guard because you don't see pennies every game in the kind of competitive meta. It's very rare. So it's something to kind of shake people up nicely, especially on a map like Clintar where penny plays so well.
Yeah.
How are you guys looking going into the finals here? Do you think you guys have a reasonable shot at winning this tournament?
Oh, of course. I mean, if Cafe Noir comes into the finals, I think that's going to be, not too difficult. And if it's Quantum, it should be a really, really challenging match. Just to throw out the friendly banter there from Cafe Noir back yesterday.
I'm just happy to be here. I think we're going to do a lot of research on both teams. We're going to be studying everything we can about them. So we'll be pretty prepared going into it. And I hope that they will also be just as prepared to give a good viewing experience and a good game experience.
Yeah.
Should be really exciting.
I think it's going to be a really exciting matchup, whether it's up against Quantum or Cafe Noir. That game coming in about 40 minutes at 4 p.m. It's currently 3:18, or at least that's the time that I'm seeing, depending on stream delay and things like that. Thank you guys both for joining us. Again, congratulations to not only you two, but the entirety of the Nekospresso team being the first ones to make it into the finals. Absolutely incredible stuff there. We're going to end stream here. We'll be back for our second semifinals match of Quantum E-Force versus Cafe Noir. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
We will absolutely see you then.